But my goal with social engineering a response is to, let me turn my fan down here so you're not getting a whistle on my end. All right. So my goal with social engineering is to produce a response that gets a cop out of system one thinking, out of subconscious thinking, and into system two, which is logic and reasoning. Because they're trained. A lot of their training, and you can correct me on this if I'm wrong, Chief Jones, but a lot of their training is they're trained in a way that they can operate largely just on automatic. They know, they've already practiced their answers to what you're going to say. They know a lot of what people say, and they know how to come back to that. So what I want to do is bring out a response that's going to let them know that they're not dealing with just some average sovereign citizen or some resistor or some asshole, but actually somebody who may just want to know that they're not being molested and treated contrary to the law. So I want to ask questions that get them out of automatic thinking and bring them into logic and reason, and ask them questions in a way that they can't answer those questions.
The people that put the police academies together, and depending on where you were in the country, anywhere from probably 1965 to 1972 is when academies started out. And when they very first started out, it was basically weapons proficiency, how to shoot a gun, maybe how to dress more professional, more professionally in your uniform and so forth and so on. And they gave them some of the basics on the law. The law says this, the law says that. Well, say by around 1980, then they started to get their acts together and started to come up with these role playing, where we would actually pretend we'd be out on like airport tarmacs where we had plenty of room to use. And the instructors would say, okay, this is going to be two guys in this car, and you're going to be stopping them by yourself, and they run a stop sign. So you stop them, and these are instructors now, and then you ask them for their driver's license and registration back in those days, back before insurance was a mandatory thing. And when you ask for them, sometimes they would say, man, I got them, but I don't have them on me. Sometimes they would say, I got them, but I ain't giving them to you. So what are you going to do? So they'd put you in different scenarios to get you to act every different kind of way, and then see if you would react one way or react another. Well, it wasn't until the early 90s, maybe 92, 93, that the training had gone from that to more pushy. You were in the intermediate area. And by 96 or 97, you were taught to bust the windows in their cars and yank them out if they didn't do what you said, because that was obstruction. And then they started leading into, you get multiple charges like resisting officer, resisting with violence. Maybe they'd get you with battery on a law enforcement officer, obstruction of justice, fail to ID. That was just a barrage. So they started teaching these things. But, hey, everybody disappeared but me. Oh, we're back. Good. Well, at any rate, they taught you a limited skill set. It's basically you asking for license and so forth, and then see how the person talks. Well, if I'm asking you, for example, for your driver's license and your registration and insurance, and then you're just quiet, then I'm taught to prompt you to say, what's wrong with you? Are you mute? Are you deaf? Do I need to write you something on a piece of paper? What's going on?
So there's one of those things. Do you need a doctor? I've heard them ask, do you need a doctor? Or you want me to call somebody? You want me to call a medical professional for you?
You want to know where you're at, what day it is?
Yeah. So that's something I've heard quite a bit. I've heard, are you okay? Or is everything okay? Have you been drinking? Are you on drugs? Are you having some kind of episode? Something to allude that there is a crisis and that they need to intervene. They need to give themselves permission to interject themselves into your being and your presence and your operation at that point in time. And something that, you can keep on mind. I mean, I gave a friend of mine years ago, I developed what was called an on guard list. And it just came to my mind again. I've not rehearsed this. I haven't brought this up in a while, but some questions that you can keep in mind is if somebody asks you if you're having a medical episode, are you okay in the head? Are you having a crisis, a mental breakdown? Is the turn to say, are you a medical professional? Are you licensed to be a medical professional? Because these cops, I saw a meme the other day that somebody had posted, and it said, they're given like 6 months of training and they're expected to be a medical professional, a social worker, an expert on drugs, all these things that they're supposed to be considered expert level on, and they have 6 months of training. So you keep going though.
Well, it's more like 3 months. Depends on where you're at. I think California and certain places in Florida, Texas, there are what they call like premium agencies that do their own training, and you could spend 9 months in there, and then you can spend 6 months out on the road with another officer in FTO. So, it's theoretical that you could have 15 months before you're cut out by yourself. But that's in the most extreme agencies. Most of them, you got 3 months of training in the academy. You come out and you got a 1 or 2 week FTO that basically shows you the lay of the land, and they go through answering calls for burglaries, rapes, batteries, public drunk, whatever it is. So you see how the other officer does, and then there's a midterm section where it's a change off. You do some, they do some. And the third phase, they just observe and they watch everything you do unless you do something stupid, then they jump in, which is FTO, Field Training Officer, which I used to be one of those. So you're trying to see if the officer basically has what it takes, and then you tell the chief of police through these papers, he actually knows how to interact with people, and he probably ain't going to get shot or killed unless he does something stupid. And then you sign off for it, And, occasionally we would stop somebody who would say something off the wall. And at the time I wasn't thinking about it, but now that we've been talking about this for a week or so, they would say, do you have identification? And people didn't say that. Yes, I have identification. Well, you show me identification that you're a police officer. Just because you're in a uniform doesn't prove you're a police officer. I want to see your ID. And so that struck me as odd or peculiar, but I said, maybe they're legit. So I say, just a minute, and I'd get out my ID. And I'd show it to them. Now, some officers said people had asked them that, and they'd tell them they wasn't there to show them their ID. They were there to see their ID. But when police are taught a limited script, they got like A, B, and C. A is somebody that just does everything they say exactly like they say it. They got B, where people are maybe a little confused, they're a little slow, they're shocked, They're embarrassed, so they act a little different, but still in that thing. So they're okay with 1 and 2. Number 3 comes up, and we were taught that people's going to have some bizarre answers, like, well, my family's part of an embassy or something. Well, what they might mean is that their mother or dad might be an entourage to a consulate, but they don't have consulate status. So they try and play word games to say, I have a special right. Well, ambassadors and other special consulates do. You can't write them tickets. You can call the State Department, tell them you have them stopped, and then they'll advise you how to take care of them. And then there is the unknown, and the unknown, we used to call it the Z factor. You know, it goes this way and that way and the next way, and we don't know how to deal with that. And they didn't train people how to deal with that because there's 6 million unknowns, and they don't train for that. And then that's when the cop gets scared. That's when the cop gets crap. You know, where's my little thinking cap? Oh, crap, wait a minute. And it depends on how you are as an individual. What is your thought process? Just like Jay the other day, he said, when you start asking questions, Jay come up with, hey, are you attempting to invade my privacy? When we was doing some role playing, invade your privacy? What do you mean invade your privacy? And then so he went a little bit further with it. And then I said, that'd be just like if you asked me, are you asking discovery questions? Are you a lawyer? Lawyers ask discovery questions in a courtroom, but you're asking discovery questions. Don't you think you're supposed to read me my Miranda rights before you start asking discovery questions? I mean, don't I have a right to remain silent? Don't I have a right not to perform? In other words, the Fifth Amendment includes not only the right not to talk to you, it includes the right not to give you a driver's license, registration, or insurance, because those documents can be used against me in a court of law. Say they expired yesterday, you're going to use that against me. But if I don't give it to you, then you don't know.
So what I really wanted to do, you saw me light up when you started talking about the Z factor, and I'm going to ask: is that something that's taught across agencies, or was that something that was maybe something that just came up in your training, or have you ever heard other officers talk about that? And then I'm going to talk about that for a minute.
Well, yes, I've heard of it, but it's referred to 100 different ways, but it still means the same thing.
Okay, so that's kind of where I want to operate. I want to operate in that Z factor. I want to operate in the zig and the zag. I just read today, and I'm just soaking my mind in this study of the dual process theory and system 1 and system 2. Again, system 1 is automatic. It's subconscious. It's what we do automatically. But what happens is system 2 cannot handle when you give it a lot of information. And I mean, I'm not immune from this either. I think a lot. I've done a lot of counter conditioning. You start stacking up information, and anybody is going to get bogged down and confused. And courts are exceptional at this. Courts will give you, their main goal when you go into court, if you're not with a lawyer and you start asking questions or whatever, their main goal is to confuse the hell out of you. And so, but if you get an officer in a situation where he is in system 2 and has to think, keeping your focus and keeping your calm is a must. You know, if you get agitated, if anybody's watching this and they've seen the video that Chris Rock does about how to not get your ass whipped by the police, I highly recommend that, because it's very accurate. If you get out of the car and you start throwing your hands around and you start acting agitated and you match the officer's level of conversation to the point where officers are trained to use authority in their voice. And what this is, it turns into violence. When you talk down to someone, when you speak to them in a way that is meant to control them, it's a violent act. You need to get your ass over here right now. Okay, what the fuck are you doing? You need to turn around, put your hands on the car. I mean, this is violence. It's not when they pull the gun out of the taser. It's when they start with their voice and they start on an interpersonal level of conducting violence with you in a way that is meant to control you. And should you resist, they will escalate the violence. This is what it's about. So if you match that, if you go to that, then you're going to get more violence. So the thing to do is to remain calm, cool as you can. And you have to season yourself. You have to think about this up front because it's an unnerving process to get with a cop or a judge, especially when there's 3 or 4 cops standing around. They know you're coming in. I mean, I've had 6 to 10 bailiffs in a room before because I had paperwork filed that they were like, who the is this guy? And, and it's intimidating. But you go in, you kind of just say, hey, look, I'm just here to ask a few questions, And I kind of chuckle at it now because it really shows they're afraid. That's what the deal is. And it's what Chief said a while ago. When it starts going this way and that way, that's what scares an officer. Well, that's the truth. And I want to go to that level, but not in a way that makes him fear for his life. I just want him to fear for his ego. Okay? I want him to be afraid that he's going to be embarrassed, either right at that point in time or later on in court when I cross-examine him or in the news when it gets in the news, because I'm acting in a calm, peaceful manner, and I'm asking him questions that any reasonable person would say, what's the problem with that question? And he can't answer the question. He ups the violence when I'm asking him a calm, peaceful question. Are you attempting to deny me, obstruct justice by denying me the due process right of knowing the nature and cause of this proceeding? I mean, I'm asking you why you pull me over. I'm asking you why you approach me here on the side. I'm standing here on the side of the sidewalk, on the sidewalk. I've got a camera in my hand. You're asking me what I'm doing. It actually makes me wonder if you're okay. Are you in a good mental space? If you can see that I have a camera in my hand, I have it pointed at an object, and you're asking me what I'm doing. I'm curious if you're okay and you're in a good mental space. Are you okay? That would really turn the tables on an officer. That's social engineering. I mean, you're asking me what I'm doing. Go ahead.
Well, we were taught if you break the word asking, A-S-K-I-N-G, if you break it in half, it's as, A-S, as king. If the police are talking, then they are as king. We are the king. We're the king of the conversation. As king, the question's here, not you. The reason why is you are the subject and we are the king. We control the conversation. They teach us when we come to a scene, the very first thing is our presence. We are present in uniform, and that should strike a mental image in a man or woman's mind. Here is the authority. They've got the badge, they've got the gun, they've got the shiny police car. Here is the authority figure. So just by showing up in mere presence should command respect, and it should command obedience. Second thing is that we use our voice and we speak in a calm and cool manner to instruct people what to do, and that we act in a professional manner through and through. Okay, but that's about where it ends. In general, they say number.
But that's the point that what you just described, where so many police officers are ruining it for police officers like you were, that were just trying to do it right and do the job properly and pay attention to the law and the Constitution and people's rights. And they're ruining it for others, because when I see a police officer come up now, that's what you described is not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, here comes somebody I got to be very careful with. He's going to maybe do some things that are not really nice to me. I don't trust you because I have had, you know, I don't want to be near you. I don't want to talk to you. I don't trust you. I'm in fear of what you might do to me. And that's, and they don't realize, I think they do realize that they are ruining it for other police officers, and they don't care. I want you to fear me. I want you to kiss my butt, and you do what I tell you to, or I'm going to screw you up.
It feels predatory.
Yeah.
It feels like you have a predator approaching you.
Yes.
That's
Exactly.
today's
that flight or fight, you know.
Yeah.
And that's why you got to keep calm. Like that little clip I told you earlier. Right? I showed you a while ago. You know, just keep calm, watch what they're doing, think about what you're going to say, and see where it goes. And I found keep them talking, and they make a fool of themselves a lot easier than if you keep talking. So.
Oh yeah, well, see, you're taught in the academy that it's going to be an 80-20. You're going to do 80% of the asking and the telling of everything, and then you're going to orchestrate the other 20%, which is everything you've asked them to tell you, everything you've asked them to do. Then that's going to be the other 20%. But in your 80%, you've already outlined how they are to act, what they are to say, and what they're to do. But you're not really taught what to do if they engage their mind and they go into a mental place of, I'm superior to this officer that is talking to me, and I'm going to make him toe the line. I'm going to challenge him, you know, do you understand that I have constitutional rights? Do you understand you're invading my privacy? Do you understand you're asking questions? You're asking leading questions. You're asking questions that are discovery questions that are asked by an attorney in a courtroom. Okay? We're on the side of the road where I supposedly run a stop sign, or I'm out here filming a police station in a public place, filming a public place, which I have a right to do. So you're coming up here telling me you want identification from me. What purpose do you getting an identification from me serve the public's good, the public trust? Okay? Say you find out I'm Bozo the Clown. Well, what does that tell you? No, what you want to do is you want to put me in like your computer database, and you want to share that with everybody to say, hey, when this guy comes, he's going to come over and annoy the hell out of you to film these places, and you need to keep a watch out for him. Okay, and then you keep being in there and being in there. So what they do is then they get a file together so that you show up at this fifth place, and you've been teletyped all over Texas or the United States, and it says, well, Bozo the Clown has made threatening statements to police officers. And so they come out and say, well, we know in advance who you are, and you're a threat to us, and if you hang around this location, we're going to arrest you. So they're not asking for identification to really know who you are. They're asking to see if they can find a want or a warrant for you so that they can arrest you and stop what you're doing. That's one thing. The other thing is that they can build a portfolio upon you saying, hey, this guy keeps going around and interrupting police operations because we don't know if he's out there with intentions to shoot at our building, if he's got, if he's a lookout for people that's going to commit criminal activity. They can try and make anything out of it. But they don't want you to film people coming in or out because, like at one police station, they found that they filmed people and not a single police car stopped at a stop sign. So they got all the license plate numbers on something like 30-something cars, sent it to the chief of police. They sent it to the TV news that these 30 officers didn't stop at a stop sign, and they want to know what they were going to do about writing them officers tickets since they didn't stop. Well, they were in a bind. If they wrote the officers tickets, who was going to write the tickets? How was they going to deal with them? If they didn't do it, then they were treating the police officers different. So what it is, they're afraid they're going to be caught on the camera doing wrong. You're going to catch them doing something wrong.
Yeah.
So they use the guys of security.
Yeah.
So it is kind of outsmarting the fox, as it were, to do what you have a right to do.
This is where Mr. Incredible said, the cartoons, The Incredibles. Mr. Huff calls Bob Parr, Mr. Incredible, into the office, and he said, "They're penetrating the bureaucracy." Well, that's what we want.
Yeah,
we want to penetrate it. We want to ask questions that, and I don't really view myself as having rights at all. I don't. I'm not one of these people that say I know my rights, because first of all, when you tell a cop you know your rights, it's a sign to a cop that you're a total dumbass. Okay, and secondly, if you think you have rights, I believe it's illusion. I don't see that I have it. I say I have one right, and that's the right of choice of how I act. And I can't control what goes on around me. I don't even know what this place is about. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I'm born here. I see this going on, and it's a different place from what I grew up in, and I don't know what this is about. I really don't. So I ask them, do I have the right? And when I say, is it your intent to obstruct justice by denying me the due process right to know the nature and cause of this proceeding? I'm asking them a question. I'm not saying I have that right. You know, and if somebody came on a while ago, a troll came on a while ago and says, are you saying the Fifth Amendment right of due process gives you the right to hear reasonable articulable suspicion before such and such occurs? And I'm like, no, I'm not alleging anything. I'm asking a question. And the question I ask is to get a cop from system 1 into system 2, make him think. And when he has to think, and it's not in his training, and he can't base it on his training, he's like, what the fuck do I do now? So that's where
exactly.
I want him to, and that makes him want to get away from me. It doesn't make him want to latch on to me more.
Or it makes him violent.
Do what?
Or it makes him violent.
Well, I'm a really big guy, and I really handle myself in a calm manner, because I don't want them thinking I want to get violent. I don't want to get violent.
Their retaliation is to do like that police officer I showed you. Step up on you, try to get you mad so you'll do something wrong so he can come down on you. Or they can come down on you, because most of the time there's more than one.
I have a disadvantage on that, okay? If that guy had stepped up on me, he would have been looking up to me, and I would have been looking down on him. So,
well, he was looking into my camera. He wasn't. I'm up here. He was down here.
Oh, okay, I got you.
I'm 6'3". All right.
I realize that they're afraid when they do this. The reason they're reacting like this out of fear. They want to provoke you. And I'm like, what? You know, I would be tempted to say something like, why are you so afraid? Why do you feel like you need to react in this way? I mean, seriously, you're reacting. You're not responding. You're in an agitated mental state, and you're in an irrational space. Why do you feel like you need to act like that? I would try to shame them. That's what I would do. I mean, at least I believe I would, because I am, that's what I practice. And when I went into, you know, the video that I have up of me interacting with a cop in Arizona, I'd just woken up, and I just wanted him to treat me like a normal guy, you know, and he was there on investigating this report, and I got some inconsistencies out of him. I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't match up. And I just started questioning that, needling that. And doggone if he didn't go back and reread the report before he came back, and he ended up apologizing for it.
Yeah. Well, go ahead. All right. Well, and I'm going to admit this to you too, and I might even put it out there, because I know there might be some other people that are wanting to do this or just starting out doing what we do, the auditing part. And I'm more of at the point where I'm getting over my jitters. I'm not as nervous. I'm pretty calm now. I might be a little bit nervous before, thinking of what's going to happen, but once it starts, I'm okay. But I'm still trying to keep myself calm, think about that, and don't say too much, because I'm still trying to formulate and learn some of the things y'all are talking about, you know, how to react to this and what to ask, and, you know, and not make really statements, but ask questions and make them think, because I like that approach. and you get your point across in the first place. Like, I'm not telling you what my right is. I'm asking you. All right. Is this or that, or, like you're talking about. And, but I'm not real comfortable with a lot of that right now. So instead of trying to get too deep into that, I'm just trying to think what I'm doing, kind of stay calm, think before I say, or just not say, and let them go. Well, that's where I'm at. And hopefully over time I'll get more knowledgeable, and you'll see more and more of that start to come out. But that was the first and the worst reaction I've had with an officer so far. Nobody's ever even come close to that before. But all right, now let me get off that for a second. Y'all guys were talking about role playing. Now, do y'all want to put some videos up where Chief actually is playing the police officer, and you're the one that's been stopped or for whatever reason in a car or on the street or for whatever topic you want to pick? Do y'all want to do some videos like that where he's a police officer and he's pulled you over and he says something and you react to him and he reacts to you? Do y'all want to do something like that?
I'd love to do that.
Okay, because right now we're just talking about the role playing.
Right. This is going to be an intro video here about social engineering and how to respond when a police officer does fill in the blank.
Right.
And actually, what would probably be good, Chief, is for us to get like a list of 10 to 20 different scenarios.
Exactly. That's kind of where I was going.
Or questions that you are trained to. I mean, we can talk on the phone for an hour and I can write down 20 questions and we can expound on those.
Absolutely.
So, but, shucks, there was something I was going to say in response to what you were talking about a while ago about not being nervous and so forth. Oh, there's a respond, don't react. And that's a key piece right there. If you just respond and don't react. Now, if a guy's got your arm up behind your back, and I stretch my shoulders out so that I can be kind of limber, and my wrists. I know some things, and ICHIO come along, and pain compliance techniques and so forth. I know how those work, and I try to keep myself limber so that I can. And, I don't want to get in those things, but. Respond, don't react. Take a deep breath and realize the peaceful solution is the peaceful solution. Anything else is violence.
Right. And see, my goal and the goal.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, we used to be taught in the late 70s, be a problem solver. Okay, if you had a traffic stop, the way to solve it was to get their ID, let them know what's going on, and then write the ticket and get going. And that was it. Spend the least amount of time you can there, write them a ticket and be gone. Well, to a point, that still is, but they have started the culture change in the 90s with be looking around for any other violations. If you see what might be a weapon in a vehicle, even if it's legal to carry, there might be a charge there. So they're teaching officers what we call Kirtles charges to see if you can make things bigger and gain more charges, because you're already on the scene. You already got them stopped. So instead of writing a ticket, you might be able to write 2 or 3 tickets. You might be able to take them to jail for 1 or 2 or 3 things. If you see an ashtray, say, you got any roaches in that ashtray, weapons or drugs or contraband in that vehicle that I need to know about. And then some of them will say, yeah, they'll say things like, I've heard people say, well, if I do I have to tell you? I say, oh, so if you're basically admitting you do, you just want to know if you have to tell me that you actually do. Well, I'm going to take that as you do, and based on your confession, you need to exit the vehicle now. because you caused me alarm to believe that there is contraband in your vehicle. So I'm going to cuff you, put you in my car for your safety and mine, and I'm going to go through that car. Now I'm going to find something, and you and your car's going to jail. So they've asked a criminal discovery question without telling you you had a right not to talk to them.
So would the best way to answer
that's all backwards.
Would the best way to answer that would just be to stick to I don't answer questions, or would y'all answer a different way?
I would ask them, I would say, do I have the right to remain silent? Because if the thing is, what I learned going through the court system is if you argue, and that's why rule number 3 is never argue. If you argue, they can overrule your argument. A judge can say, denied. I object. Denied. Motion to dismiss. Denied. They can shut you down. I have a right to remain silent. Well, no, actually, you need to answer this question. So if you ask them, though, do I have a right to remain silent? And they tell you no, then they're in the process of giving you legal advice.
Right. Well, see, I've been stopped over the years, but most of the time, wherever I drove, probably in a 50-mile radius, everybody knew me, and nobody stopped me for anything. I mean, unless I traveled out of my area, but I'm like everybody else. I'd have a burnt out tail light, tag light, headlight, forget to signal, not stop completely. I made these everyday violations in my automobile that they call a vehicle somewhere, and I'd get pulled over. Now, of course, me being me, and of course, some people say, well, that's being a butthole. No, I was just seeing how other officers would react. When they'd come to my window and they say, how you doing today? I say, how you doing today? So I never answered their question, and I put the question back to them.
Well,
I like it. Yeah. Ding, 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 we have a winner. Yes.
Yeah, that throws them off. And they say, you got a driver's license, registration, insurance? And I say, that's questions that sound like discovery questions to me. If you're going to ask discovery questions, don't you have to read me the Miranda warning before you ask discovery questions so that I know for sure that I have a right to remain silent and not to talk to you? Man, look, you run the stop sign back there, and we just need to get your license, registration, insurance. I said, I need to give it to you, or you need me to give it to you? When you say you need it, in what form do you mean you need it? You need it so you can write a ticket. You need it because you want to see who I am. And you're telling me, I said, you need to give me your license. I don't need to do nothing. I need to hold on to what I have. Okay? So you're telling me what I need. I'm the better judge of what I need.
If you were the officer back then, not knowing what you know now, and I started saying stuff like that, that would give you a reason to get your energy amped up and or put me down face down on the car, correct?
Well, that wasn't the kind of guy I was, but it would put my brain into high gear. Is this another officer trying to play games with me? Is this somebody who's a psychologist or psychiatrist for a living, and they're going to play mind games with me? And we were taught in the academy, and we talked about this the other day, say, look, I'm not going to play no games with you. Are you going to cooperate with me, or are you going to go to jail for obstructing an officer in the line of duty? What are you going to do? Are you going to help yourself? So here's me turned in. Are you going to help yourself and give me the documents I asked for, or are you going to obstruct me and go to jail? What's your choice?
So let's clue everybody in. When an officer goes to the point where he's saying, "Are you going to obstruct me, or do you want to go to jail?" He's already in a forward motion, momentum-wise, to go ahead and put cuffs on you. I mean, they don't make that threat lightly. They don't. When they go to that, they're fucking pissed off. They're ready to end this. They're tired of being in system 2 where they have to think and they want to go back to system one where they can automatically throw you in the back of their car, take you to jail, process you, and go on to the next call. You're interrupting their
Correct.
process. You're slowing them down, and really what it is, it's a sign of frustration, and you've taken a wrong path at that point in time. I mean, unless it's the only path available. I mean, some officers don't give you a choice. I would say that. But if that's something that you hear on a regular basis, it's time to re-examine your approach.
Hey, I got a quick question. When the police officer, and I know maybe other states, different states have different laws for this, but I get pulled over and a police officer wants my ID and my and my insurance and everything. Do I have to turn it over to him, or can I just put it up against the window where he can see it? Because it said, I don't remember exactly what the law says, but it doesn't sound like to me it's saying I have to turn it over to him, but I have to let him.
Some states actually say present, and some states say surrender.
Yeah, prevent is the one that we have here.
If it says present, then it's a display. In my opinion, I'm not a lawyer. I can't give you legal advice. In case Bozo's listening, I mean, everybody who watches my channel knows I don't give legal advice, but I'm talking general legalese. I teach legalese as a second language, and surrender means I have to surrender it. When I went for 3 years without a driver license, and I put that piece of plastic on a paper and recorded it, and then turned around and mailed it to the DMV registered mail, the state trooper told me it shows voluntarily surrendered. So I've actually surrendered that document to. It's kind of like a prisoner of war. When it's surrendered, you got the other side has possession of it.
Yeah.
But a presentation. I mean, I'm looking at several presentations right now. Somebody's got a presentation of flowers, and there's a presentation of a road sign, and but I don't have it in my hands.
Yeah.
So I think my opinion is if it says present, there you go.
Yeah.
It doesn't say I have to surrender it to you.
That's my opinion too, but I know that's
that has been done. I have stopped people and asked them for their driver's license, registration, insurance, and they'll put it up to a window. Now that's been very, very limited. They'll put it to the window, and of course we were taught to say this: I can't get out and read that and copy it down and take care of my safety and the safety of the surroundings. You're going to have to hand it to me where I can look at it in a safe setting. I can't stand on the side of the road and do all this.
It's not my duty to make sure that you're safe. It's my duty to not endanger you. You can tell me what you want to do to make sure you're safe, but this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to present this license to you. I'm not going to let you possess it.
Sir, you're obstructing me in the line of duty. You're not letting me perform my duty, and that's obstructing. So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to think that over, and if you don't, then I'm going to remove you from your vehicle. You're going to go into my vehicle in handcuffs, and you'll get one phone call to jail. Do you understand me? That's our training.
Go ahead and get your cuffs out because we're going to do that.
Okay, go ahead and step out of the car.
Sure.
Step out of the car, sir. If you don't step out of the car, I will remove you from the car. Do you understand me?
I've already stepped out of the car. Do you understand me? At that point in time, I'm going hostile.
Oh, so you want to be a jerk, huh?
I do.
Well, great. We can play that game.
By God, how big a boy are you? Roy D. Mercer is my name. How big a boy are you? I'm going to come down there and open up a 55-gallon drum of whoop ass on you.
501, need 1051 backup, 1050 backup. We have a verbally convert. We have a combative butthole down here.
Bring it straight.
Yeah, for real. So now there's going to be 4 or 5 of us down there. So it ain't just me. It's 4 or 5 of us down there, and they're going to say, listen, this boy wants to fight. So everybody's like getting, okay, we're going to get a piece of this guy. That's the way you're taught.
You do not want 5 officers on top of you when you're on the ground. I can just tell you that.
I'd tell you, yeah.
But seriously, I would tell him to go ahead and handcuff me, and then I would just shut up. Because I mean, if he's gonna go Billy Badass, let's mitigate that. I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and surrender, and I'm a big guy. I'm gonna be just as calm and let him steer me, but I'm not gonna give him what he wants. You know.
I got another one. I'm just gonna put up what y'all were just talking about. I have thought about this in the past, and I haven't done it yet, and I don't think I will, because in the back of my head, there's some things going, yeah, alarm, maybe you should do that. Is, you know, that we almost always have backup, and we almost always are in communication. We know what's going on with each other, especially when we're in a group. You may not see us out there, but we're there most of the time. All right. So I've got a police officer, and he's getting, kind of aggressive, like the one clip I showed. And I could get take my little microphone and say, hey, we have a combative police officer. I want to bring the cameraman, the whole group up here, or something along those lines. I don't think he would react to that very well. He might be calling back up, saying, I'm in danger here.
On that line,
well,
if you have somebody in backup and they call 911, that's something that can be used in a future court case, saying there's an officer that's being really hostile for someone just taking video camera. And if you train yourself ahead of time to talk really calmly and say, look, there's an officer that's being really hostile and really aggressive and getting up in the personal space of someone who is just taking video, and this is one of our press correspondents, that goes into the 911. They cannot erase that. I mean, they can. I can't say they won't try, but that makes a record, and that's going to look bad on them. And actually, dispatch is going to be required to get somebody else acting on that. Am I wrong, Chief?
Oh, you're right. In fact, I was in an unmarked car. I was in full uniform, but I was in an unmarked car. And I stopped a lady about 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night. And she wouldn't roll down her window. She wouldn't talk to me. And I can see her talking on the phone. And about, 1 minute and a half later, I don't think she's a threat to me. She stopped. Her car's running. We're on the side of the road. And she's talking on her phone. So I said, well, maybe she's got a mental illness. Maybe she's scared. Maybe she's calling somebody to see what to do. She looked like she was in her 60s. Next thing I know, on my radio, it calls me 401. I said, 401, go ahead. They say, you're out on a traffic stop on 268, 10-4. We got a female caller that says that there's an unmarked car with some flashing lights in the front grill, and she was trying to verify if you're a real police officer. And I said, well, you can tell her I am. So she let down her window about an inch. And she said, I want to see your ID. And so I got my ID out and I showed it to her. So then she told dispatch, well, tell him I'm going to drive home. And if he wants to, he can come see me tomorrow because I don't trust him. I said, dispatch, tell her if she drives off, she's going to jail. Okay. And so she actually went to drive off. I followed her 15 miles to her house. She would not get out of her car. So 2 deputies come and a city police car come down there. I didn't ask for them to, but they just volunteered on themselves to come down there. And they told her they was going to bust out the glass in her car because she fled and eluded a police officer. So now it was a felony crime. And they was going to yank her out of there. And I said, wait a minute, this is my case. This woman's old and she's scared. We ain't nobody going to bust no windows and hurt her. So then she called 911 wanting a supervisor out there or the sheriff because these people were threatening to kill her. That's why she said kill her. And there were so many of them. And so eventually I got her I got her to talk to me, got out of the car. And so I got her identification, and I said, you know, I said, the reason you were stopped where you were speeding, okay? And I said, I ain't going to take that to this whole new level, and you're like 65 years old and put you in jail. Well, all the other police officers were just having a cow. We wasted all these resources, all this time, didn't get to bust no windows or arrest her or nothing. What's up with this, Chief? You know? And I said, she's 65 years old.
Resources,
You know?
they meant ego. We got our egos all pumped up, and now we can't do anything?
That's right. You can't stand the truth. So I wrote her a warning, and I talked to her. And she went and talked to the county judge on Monday, because it's on the weekend, and said what all happened. Well, the judge, he wanted to talk to me, and he actually talked to other people and said, why did all this happen and stuff? Because it was like it was some big thing. He said, Judge, usually these guys bust windows out and they're yanking people out in their seatbelt is keep them strapped in. So now they're carrying these EMS and emergency medical service scissors where they can cut their seatbelt, where they can yank them out through their window because the seatbelt's keeping them locked in, where the police officer can't yank them out. I said, this was a very, very, very low impact incident. I said, most officers go high impact. He said, well, why didn't you let them do their thing? I said, she's 65 years old. She wasn't trying to hurt nobody. She was scared. He said, well, you did the right thing. You did the right thing. So, matter of fact, she's writing letters to your city council talking about how professional you are. And since she's got a lawyer trying to sue the sheriff's office and the police department from the adjoining city because she said they treated her like she was an animal. So, you know, there you go. I was using my head and they were using their testosterone.
Which we see way too often.
Yeah, and matter of fact, that's why I went to Tennessee at the request of another chief of police, a friend of mine, to come there to train his young department in how to interact with people, among other things. Because he said, you got a cool head. He said, I want you to be in charge on nights and weekends so I can get some sleep. And he said, you raised me up old school, and I want you to teach my people how to deal with people. He said, hey, if they got a gun and they're going to use it, you know what you got to do. But if they got a gun and it's lawfully there, how to deal with it, you know? He said, I want you to teach them all kind of scenarios. He said, I don't want all this stuff we were taught in the academy. He said, I want real life, real world teaching, and where people do have rights. That the Constitution does mean something. And tell them why it means something. And tell them and explain to them, hey, if you go to court on this, you're going to look really bad. You may get sued. You may lose your job, and you may go to jail. So you may have a different uniform.
I think a lot of that, you're going to get sued, you know, you're going to lose your job stuff. I think a lot of that's been mitigated by police unions. Police officers now know that the unions have their back, and their chances of being held accountable are far less now than they were. And so really, this isn't a battle of the wits. And so, you know, if somebody's going to mess up, if a cop's going to mess up, he needs to mess up really bad. And so staying calm and staying cool and asking questions, in my opinion, is the way to come away. And I've done it. So it's the way to come away with the least amount of damage to you.
And you know something? I think that is a good place to stop.
If the listeners to this video, the viewers of this video, could post your questions. Well, what if the police do this? If you could post them down below, we're going to pick the best ones, and we'll try to address those for you in a way that's socially engineered. And you choose whether it mitigates. We're not giving you legal advice. We just want to brainstorm and find a more peaceful way to respond to things. So post your questions, post your scenarios, and you know, I know somebody's going to go ahead and come and say, what do you do if you got 5 police officers on you screaming, "Don't resist"? Well, you're fucked at that point in time, so it's too late. Don't put that one. We're not addressing that one. Call an ambulance.
Yeah.
So anyway, post your questions.
At that point, calm down as best you can, shut up, and don't fight back.
Right?
That's
another word from our sponsors.
Yeah. Well, I think I may use
put that one of those in there.
Yeah, see what happens.
All
I
right.
think that part you just did, I'm going to use because on my channel to direct people to the PNP News in depth, because I'm going to start putting this stuff over there, because long videos, I just don't like long videos on my regular channel. They just don't go over well there. But the people that are really interested, when they know there's a new video going up on my in-depth channel, they'll go over there and we'll watch it. So the people that are serious will go over there, and that channel will build. And we might say we'll do this once a week or twice a week, whatever we decide is proper. Plus, I don't want to flood. We got a bunch of here, and I don't want to flood that channel with just this. It's really about auditing, and this stuff is about auditing, but it just goes so far in depth that I think it should be on the other channel.